you fill your water? Okay.
to allow the family to exit before you. If you'll be coming with us for the burial communal service, the Lion, the procession will leave here. The service is being held at the Cedar Park Cemetery on Forest in Paramus, New Jersey. So if you'll be coming with us, please pull up in front of the building with your headlights and flashing lights on so that the staff can direct you. The procession will be led by a hearse with Riverside National North in the window. I'll be driving the hearse as the director, and the family has 2 limousines which will follow behind. So those 3 vehicles will be leading the procession so that you'll kind of have an idea about what you're doing for driving. Thank you very much.
Could be seated. It's customary to start with Psalm 121. I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, from God, maker of heaven and earth.
Friends and family, we gather this morning to remember and to celebrate the life of Arlene May Meister. Zichronah Livracha, may her memory be for a blessing. In the beautiful psalm we just heard, it concludes with the words, "May God guard our going out and our coming in now and forever." To the rabbis, this was more than a figurative expression, it was literal. This concept that we are gifted with souls, and when our bodies die, our souls live on. As a matter of fact, to the rabbis, they enter into an olam haba, a world to come. And so we say, may God receive Arlene's soul. In Hebrew, in Jewish, her name was Chana, daughter of Saul and Pesha. May God receive her soul. And also, we give this moment an opportunity to recognize others, dear relatives of hers, who have also entered into that world to come. Her beloved husband, Bertram, her parents, Blanche and Charles, her brother, Marvin. Zichronam Livracha, may each of their memories also be for blessing. But this concept of being God guarding us, being blessed in all aspects of life, in our goings and our comings, in the realities of life, are also present in this psalm. This idea that what makes life meaningful are the people closest to us. And so, of course, for Arlene, it was her family. And so we ask God to send comfort to each of you, to her daughters and sons-in-law, Lynn and Seth, Barbara and Jean-Marc, to her grandchildren, Stephanie and Stephanie's fiancé, Mark, David and David's wife, Mathery, Hannah and Hannah's fiancé, Dylan, Brooke and Kate. May God comfort you. To her sister, Roz, may God comfort you as well. And other family members. I had the opportunity to know Arlene, generally speaking, sitting back in that area with Barbara and family for years to come together for Shabbat services. I would always look back and be delighted to see her big smile, her warm smile. It's a beautiful obituary that was put together and a beautiful picture of Arlene. You see that countenance that she possessed. It drew you in. I want to take a few moments to share some words. We will also be hearing from grandchildren today as well. Arlene Mae Meister, a woman full of determination, warmth, humor, and love. A woman who lived fully, loved fiercely, and who leaves behind a legacy that stretches far beyond what any of us can put into words. Arlene grew up in Brooklyn, and even as a little girl, she had a deep appreciation for the good things in life, especially food. Her family remembers how she would sit outside patiently, hopefully waiting for her Italian neighbors to bring out a plate of pasta. That image of Arlene, young and hungry, undeterred and charming, is in many ways who she was throughout her life. She knew what she wanted, whether it was spaghetti, a husband, or the life she wanted, and she found a way to get it. She went on to attend Madison High School, where she would proudly mention the company she kept with Chuck Schumer, Bernie Sanders, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who also walked those halls. After graduation, she went to secretarial school and eventually became an executive assistant to Herbert Friedman. It was a role she took pride in and one that highlighted her intellect, professionalism, and dedication. And then, of course, there's the legendary story of how she met Bert. Did you call him Bert generally? She referred to him as Bert. Arlene went to her dermatologist and asked if he knew any nice, young, single Jewish doctors. Now, Bertram didn't jump at the idea right away, but Arlene was not one to be easily discouraged. She was patient, persistent, and persuasive, and once he came around, well, things moved rather quickly. They were married just 3 months after their first date. I mean, that's not a whirlwind. That was Arlene. When she knew something was right, she didn't wait. And she was devoted to Bert from that moment on. That same determination and commitment carried into the role as mother. Arlene had high expectations for her daughters, Lynn and Barbara. She believed deeply in education, not just in schools, but in home. And when she and Bert moved to Scarsdale, it was so their girls could have access to the best schools. But just as much of their education happened outside of the classroom through operas, Broadway shows, museums, and always books. Reading was a lifelong passion of hers, so much so that at one point, Arlene volunteered to type books into Braille. Imagine having to learn how to type Braille. But a gesture of compassion and a reflection of her belief that everyone should have access to the same joy of reading that she had. She also volunteered at the school library and for a time even at the Bronx Zoo, feeding another lifelong love, animals. But above all, Arlene's greatest joy was her grandchildren. She cherished time with each of them, taking them on special trips, teaching them life skills, playing cards, baking, and never saying no to a game of Monopoly. She wasn't just a grandmother, she was a presence, one that brought laughter, lessons, and unconditional love. And her sons-in-law shared with me her incredible sense of humor. Everyone knew Arlene had her stories, her favorite stories, her jokes, I guess those Brooklyn stories, especially the old ones, and her gift for bringing people together. She hosted holiday dinners for her circle of cousins, not necessarily to cook. Cooking may not have been her thing, but to orchestrate, to bring joy, to be the one at the center of connection and tradition. That's who Arlene was, a connector, a doer, a force. Her love for her family and friends was fierce. If you needed something, anything, she was there, on the phone, in person, to babysit the kids or to babysit the dog. She gave of herself constantly, and she held on tightly to the people she loved. In fact, 2 of her best friends have been with her since kindergarten. Lifelong friendships were not just valued, they were nurtured. After Bert's passing, Arlene didn't retreat. She lived. She took classes, practiced yoga, went to shows, spent time with her friends. She continued to evolve, to grow, to find joy, even through grief. Arlene was not just loved, she was admired for her tenacity, her wit, her intelligence, and her boundless love. So today we remember a woman who knew what she wanted and made it happen, a woman who never stopped giving, who never stopped learning, who never stopped loving. We honor her, not just in our words today, but in the way that we carry her legacy forward, in the way we show up for each other, in the way we keep telling her stories, in the way you will laugh at the jokes that she used to tell, the stories that she may have repeated more than once, and hold tight to the love she gave so freely. And let us say, Amen. Cantor and Elizabeth would now like to lead us in the 23rd Psalm, beautifully accompanied by cello. And then we will hear words written by Arlene's granddaughters, and followed by words I will call forward, then David and Stephanie after.
Adonai roi lo echsar bino desheyabitzini al mei menuchot נפשי שובב, ישובב, ינחני במגלי צדק, ינחני במגלי צדק, למען שמו. גם כי לך בגיא צלמוות לא ירא כי אתה עמדי שבטך ומשענתך ינחמוני. תערוך לפניי, לפניי, שולחן נגד צורריי, דשנת ושמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. I shall not want. From Brooke, Hannah, and Kate. Our grandma was our favorite person in the world and our best friend. Nothing we can say will do justice to the kind of grandma she was. She was the person who did absolutely everything for everyone else, especially her grandchildren. She played the biggest part in our lives as matriarch of our family, and we will miss her forever. A few days before she passed, she told her caregiver that her husband was coming to pick her up soon, and that she needed to pack her bag of books, since she never went anywhere without a good book. A few days later, on their 67th wedding anniversary, she was reunited with our grandpa. We take comfort knowing he is taking care of her now, since she took the best care of us our whole lives. Our grandpa wrote her this poem on their 25th wedding anniversary that she had framed on their nightstand, dated August 31st, 1983. To the biggest love of my life, card stores were meant for those whose minds would just go blank when looking for just the right prose for an exceptional loved one to thank. I searched a dozen and more in hopes of finding just one. Poetry was there by the score. There was moon and June, fun and sun. Many came close to expressing love, sometimes happy, sometimes blue. There was always heaven and a loving dove, but none showed the love I have for you. 25 years went by as a dream. You raised a family without batting an eye. We lived and loved and never a scream. After 25 years, I can still admit, without you, I would die. For now and forever, all my love is yours, Bert.
So I think, as all the grandkids would agree, there's no way to describe how she made us feel. But I guess it was like she existed only for us, which she didn't, of course. But she had a way of making us feel like we were the only person on Earth, and also bringing us together. And I think that. My memory is not great, as Mathry my wife would say. I forget things, but there are things that I'll never forget. And a lot of those are just when I think about her, the feelings that I remember when we would be coming to her house, when we'd be coming up to visit her, and how I would always, when we were leaving the airport, ask how far away are we? It's just so excited to be there. And I remember the feeling when there was a certain turn on a street that meant we were about 10 minutes away, and the feeling of pulling into her driveway, and for the smell of her lawn, and walking up the stairs, because we knew that we were there. I think we went on a lot of great trips, but there was nothing like being taken to Grandma's house, and that's because she was there, and Grandpa Bert was there. And I know towards the end, her memory issues were very hard for Aunt Barbara, for a lot of people, but that for me, they had created a lot of the funniest moments that I will remember. So I want to share a few of those. And when Mathry and I first came to her house, there were a few, and I know Rabbi mentioned the story of how she pursued Grandpa Bert and how she spoke about him and the dermatology appointment. And I think on our first trip there to her house, it was always kind of one story that she had and would be repeated 8 to 14 times. And her story on the first occasion was about how she had met, or how she had pursued Grandpa Bert, and how she was in the doctor's office, and he was very formal, and I guess you could maybe kind of timid, and she had to really pursue. And so the story that we heard on that trip over and over, which really just speaks to how she was and her humor and how much she loved him, was along the lines of she went to him for a pimple, and when he said, can I take a look at that? And she just proceeded to take her top off. And if it was true or not, but that was the story that she told us multiple times, and we loved it. We loved hearing it every single time. And she said, how did I tell you the story of how I finally got him, because I had to get him. So I just took my top off in the office, and he said, Grandpa Bert is very formal. He said, no, I was just looking at your face. And that was really, just her, and of course showing us the picture and talking about how, he looked like a movie star, which he did. We had an amazing time at our wedding, Mathry and I's wedding in South Florida, which thank God she was able to be at. And there was a photo that she had of all of us together at the wedding, and she was showing Mathry her pictures and showing us her pictures and her photographs that she had. Okay. Making sure it's not mine. Showing us her photos, as she loved to do, and she was showing us the photo from our wedding, 8 to 14 times. And on one occasion, she shows the photo to Mathry, and she points at Mathry in the photo, and she says, "She is beautiful. Who is that?" And Mathry said, "Oh, that's me." And I don't think it was a slight on Mathry. And now she looked beautiful that day at her house as well. But just another really great memory that we had. And there were others, but when she took us to Yellowstone, she took us on so many incredible trips in our life. I mean, unbelievable trips. And there was this phrase, and I made a joke of it, and it was a joke for a while. It was what I heard Grandpa Bert saying, and I'm sure I had heard it before, but it was the first time I had heard it. And it was, "Where's Mother? Where's Mother?" And everyone's heard that, and that was always something that we remembered. And I'm sure he's been up there. I've been asking a lot of people, "Where's Mother?" And he doesn't have to ask anymore. She's there. And I know he'll be really happy about that. And she'll be happy too.
We'd probably be here for at least 5 hours longer if I listed all the happy and joyful memories we shared with our grandma. So I'll focus on a few. Over the past 2 days, I thought about the first time we made Mandelbrot together, the time that she and Grandpa took me on a trip to London, and our driver told the guards at Westminster Abbey that we were the American ambassador's cousins, so we could skip the line. The time that we went dog sledding together in Alaska. The time that David, Hannah, and I took turns holding her arm to make sure she wouldn't trip while we walked down rocky paths in the Galapagos Islands and saw little seal pups playing on the beach. And the time I lived with her after college and we sat in her kitchen watching Jeopardy and eating Costco lamb chops. She shared her passion for the arts with her family, and I can't even count all the Broadway shows she took us to. I'm especially grateful for our trips to the opera. She always talked about the years that she and Grandpa had season passes. He would wear a tuxedo and she would wear a mink coat, and they would walk arm in arm down the aisle to visit with one of Grandpa's patients who played in the orchestra. She said that everyone stared at Grandpa because he looked like a movie star, and she was just lucky to be by his side. I'm also incredibly grateful for the advice she gave me during a very difficult time in my life. I was feeling completely lost, and I turned to her for guidance. She looked at me and said, "Be a bull." She told me to put my head down and charge through my problems and leave them all behind me in the dust. At the time, I didn't know how much those words would mean, but they gave me the strength I needed to move on. If it wasn't for her wisdom and inspiration, I don't think I would have had the courage to move forward. If I hadn't, then I never would have met my soulmate, Mark, who she thought was very handsome. I'll always be grateful for her unconditional love and the way she guided me through life with her words, her strength, and her example. I would like to conclude with a quote from one of her favorite operas, La Bohème. "O tante cose che ti voglio dire, o una sola ma grande come il mare profonda e infinita, sei il mio amore e tutta la mia vita." I have so many things I want to say to you, or just one, but it's as big as the sea, as deep and infinite as the sea. You are my love and my whole life. Thank you.
And thank you to each of you for sharing your words of love and remembrance, and to this family for opening up your hearts to share with me as well the color that gave Arlene her beauty. I want to share a few announcements at this point. Following the service in here, services will continue at Cedar Park Cemetery in Paramus, New Jersey. Following, there will be Shiva sat today from 5 to 8 p.m. at Barbara and John Mark's house. That's at 18 IU Willits in Roslyn. If you need specifics, you can speak to the family afterwards, more specific than that. There will be a Shiva Minyan service tonight at 7:30 p.m. On Thursday, Shiva will be sat, same location, from 2 to 5 p.m., and then 6 to 8 p.m. That gap in between, just giving the family an opportunity to have some dinner together, for example. Another announcement, there's a beautiful custom of allowing a person's impact in this world to continue even after their passing, and that is through acts of tzedakah, of charity. And the family is asked, if you choose to make a contribution, to consider Make-A-Wish Foundation, a children's charity, an animal charity, or to Alzheimer's charities. Your choice. Any one will honor Arlene's memory. I believe those are the announcements. Anything else? Okay. We conclude this section of the service with the chanting of the El Malei Rachamim prayer, asking God to provide perfect peace for Arlene's soul. It's customary to rise together at this time.
אל מלא רחמים שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, עם קדושים וטהרים כזוהר רקיע מזהירים את נשמת בת סול ופשע, שלחה לעולמה. אנא בעל הרחמים, יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצאו בצרכים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה. ונאמר, and we all say, Amen.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Arlene May Meister, known by her Jewish name as Chana, daughter of Saul and Pesha. She has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence in the shadow of your wings. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say together, Amen.
Amen.
This time our funeral director will come forward with pallbearers, and the family will walk behind as the aron, the casket, is taken out to the hearse. We then will ask that everyone return to their cars. Those heading to the cemetery will wait for the funeral director to guide us as we drive in a procession.